You actually talked about that in next episode.
Let me start that just section.
Yeah.
Just gonna do that. So I Yay, you're here. Welcome to How to Be a Grown Up with CK and GK. Let's get started. Hey, we're glad you're here. Don't know what day it is. That's Jenny's realm of knowing what day. I'm not
It
that
might be
person.
Tuesday.
Could be. It's a day of the week. And I'm Caitlin. Welcome to How to Be a Grown Up, the show that is all about giving you advice on being a grown up with hosts who sometimes forget to take that advice themselves. So, with me today, filling in for Jenny as she recovers from knee surgery, is Ariella Monti, author of Roots in Ink, my poetic, coffee-fueled tornado of brilliance.
Ooh, I wouldn't have said tornado of brilliance. I would have said tornado of something less than brilliance. But
No, we've talked about this before. You're very wisdomous. Okay. We love you, Jenny. We miss you. If you want to support her, please do feel free to reach out to us using the contact us form on our website, or you can send me a text through the show notes. It's the first link in the show notes. Today, we are continuing our Spring into Self-Care series with the very important conversation about self-care and guilt, which I mentioned we would get into as we first started this series. So I touched on that in episode 144, which is 4 clever ways to reset your forgotten self-care routine. If you haven't listened to it, I suggest going back to that. And I will link it here in the show notes as well. So today, my sources are Heather Mulder, which I talked about in that episode. She is the owner of a coaching company called Course Correction. And the article is called How to Stop Feeling Guilty About Taking Care of Yourself. And then there's, of course, references from myself, and Ariella will add in her feelings about this as well. But I'm going to start by saying, you know, if you listen to this show regularly, that we have been lecturing you about the importance of self-care for the past 3 weeks. We talked about resetting your self-care routine. We talked about mindfulness. We talked about hobbies. But the thing that's hardest is probably what we're getting into today. And so I'm sure that you are probably sick of me saying you need to focus on your self-care. You know that already. You just can't do it for whatever reason. And I'm going to repeat what I said a few weeks ago, and this is going to sound harsh, but it's probably because you feel guilty about your self-care. Okay? It's time to fix that, love. We're done with that.
no more guilt.
No more guilt. As Heather Mulder said, and I agree with her on all of this, ditching that guilt requires 3 things. 1, a good definition of self-care. 2, knowing how to start prioritizing it. And 3, a good support system that you can go to for help, guidance, and accountability to make sure that you are taking care of yourself. So we're going to get into each one of those things here. We're going to start with if you are someone who feels guilty about self-care, your likely unreasonable at best definition of self-care. So no offense to you as I say something offensive. Your definition of self-care probably sucks. I'm just going to say it. Fix your definition of self-care. It might be, oh, I need to take a spa day. No. I'm going to give you my definition from episode 144. And again, I'm going to suggest you go back to it. My definition is the things that you do for yourself that help you feel like yourself. Why does it exist? The purpose of self-care is to be able to give your best to tasks and other people when it matters the most. Like when you have a big work project due. Like when your kiddo is up sick all night and you haven't slept because that's life as a parent. You'll be better equipped, better mentally capable of handling that big problem when it does come your way, because it will.
It always does.
That is life, right? It always does. If you've taken care of yourself before it arrives. I also find that sometimes the little problems are where I really lose it, right?
Because they stack up.
Right, they do. And it's never that you spill something one time in a day. It's that you've spilled 3 things and then you drop something and you break it, and then there's a Band-Aid stuck to the drum of your dryer.
And you just lose your mind.
and you completely
Right.
lose your mind, right? I may or may not be speaking from personal experience on that one, right? But all those little things that add up, when you completely lose it because of those little things, it's probably because your self-care is lacking.
Right. It's the preventative maintenance of your life.
Right, right. It is the Botox of your life. It is the hair dye that you use. And when your roots are growing out, it is the little powder that you tap onto the roots so that they don't show. Okay? That's the purpose of your self-care. The other thing I want you to do is redefine success. This is a really weird one to bring up here, but I promise it matters. Success is not necessarily achievement based. It can be, of course, right? Anytime you accomplish a goal or a task, that is success, and you should be proud of that and celebrate everything that comes along with it. But how you define success really does matter, because if your definition is based solely on achievement, as Heather Mulder says, your self-worth will also be primarily about your outcome, and you're less likely to feel that you're worthy of self-care.
We're not doing that in 2025. We're not tying our self-worth to our outcomes.
No, it's not healthy. I'm going to use you as an example here, okay? You achieved success in publishing your book. That is an accomplishment. You worked really hard on it for 4 years,
Yeah.
and you were also doing other projects at the same time. Like that is an achievement. You need to celebrate that as the success. What you're not going to focus on right now, even though it's so impossible, and I'm facing this myself with the podcast, is the result of the
Right.
publishing.
Yep.
Right? You can't define the success of the book by how well it does in the market. You have to define the success of the book by the fact that you accomplished that in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what I'm doing with the podcast right now, is I can't define it based on the number of listeners I have or the number of downloads. I need to be focused on the fact that, one, I'm publishing every week, which is an achievement in and of itself. And two, it brings me joy.
Right.
So that needs to be the focus.
Right.
Here's the other problem with an achievement-based definition of success. Achievement-based definitions of success make everything too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Self-care becomes too much work because you end up obsessing over metrics.
Right.
And here's what I mean by metrics. You know how if you are an Apple Watch or a Garmin or whatever the brand is of Fitbit, whatever it is, of watch that you wear that measures your output for the day. If you've ever exercised without it, or the battery dies, or you forget to track it, and you're like, dang it, that workout doesn't even count. I'm sorry. What?
No.
Of course it counts. Of course the exercise counts. Just because you don't get credit for it on your watch, you're going to say the workout doesn't count? Now, I've said that before. The other day I was walking home, it was pouring rain, and my jacket stuck to my watch, and it turned off the walking workout. So it said that I only walked for 2.5 miles when I actually walked for 4. I was livid about that. I'm like, man, I'm not going to get credit for it. And then I was like, wait, hold on a second, Caitlin. You take a step back. You still walked for 4 miles. You still did your morning walk in the rain, holding my umbrella, switching back and forth between arms because my arms were getting tired.
I'm going to get you one of those little hats with the umbrella on it.
I do need one of those. How lame is that? But it has to be big.
That's true.
Otherwise it only protects your neck, and that's it. Okay. If you're fixated on the achievement that your watch is telling you did a workout and not on the fact that you just did something good for your body,
no.
That's insane. I'm fixated on the achievement and not on the good thing I just did. And that's because my crazy brain is thinking it doesn't count because I have my watch on. That is insane thinking, right? It leads to other insanity things like counting every single calorie, obsessing over your step count, weighing yourself every morning, and all these other inane habits that make you feel ashamed of yourself because you, quote, haven't succeeded yet. and it doesn't honor the work that you did, regardless of whether or not it was measured. Right. And it starts to become a chore because you're so obsessed with the success and the metric of it. It's not self-care.
Yeah.
That kind of obsession is really unhealthy. That's what makes it not self-care. So you can't use an achievement-based definition of success when it comes to self-care. It's not good for your mental health. Another thing we're going to do here to get over the guilt. Repeat after me. You're going to repeat after me, Ariella. Here we go.
Okay.
No is a complete sentence. Say it.
No is a complete sentence.
There it is. I find that in my life, there are two ways of getting me to say yes to things. One is by asking me to do something that I know that you suck at.
Is an example of this when I told you that I suck at Excel and you're like, ask me to do it?
God. Well, there's two things there. One, I genuinely want to help you.
No, sure. Yeah.
But also, like, yes. Oh my God. Just let me do it. Okay, so there's two things going on there. One, part of me is like, no, I can do it better than you. So let me just do it. It's an ego thing. That's one. Two, if I have to teach you how to do the thing, forget it. It's not worth it to me to teach you how to do it, so I'm going to do it myself. So that's the first way, is getting me to do or asking me to do something that I know you suck at. Okay. The other way is by convincing me that the task won't take very long.
Oh yeah.
Which we'll get to in a minute. This is a very unfair thing to do to me because my time blindness is one of my biggest challenges. Either way, remember that saying no, it's not about the person. You're not rejecting a person. You're rejecting the ask. And by the way, if you're saying yes because you want that person to like you, they won't like you because you're saying yes. They're going to like that you took the task off their plate for them because they don't want to do it. That's a message to 12-year-old Caitlin right there. Doing something for someone does not make them like you. They either like you or they don't. The end. The purpose of saying no, again, you're not rejecting the person, you're rejecting the ask. The purpose of saying no is to uphold your priorities, which in this case, we're talking about yourself.
Right.
And because you're upholding your priorities, that means there's nothing wrong with you saying no.
Right.
When you say no to someone, and again, I want you to switch that, not saying no to someone, but saying no to something, saying no to the ask. When you say no, you're also saying yes to yourself and those people that you love most, because you have the ability to say yes to them so that you can be your best self when it matters.
Right.
Heather Mulder's website has a whole post about how to say no guilt-free. And it's linked in the blog for this episode, and I would highly recommend it. I need to read it, and then I need to memorize it, and then I need to listen to it as my go-to-sleep noises and brainwash myself in the middle of the night. The fifth thing you're going to do when it comes to building guilt-free self-care routines is take back your time, because it's yours. Heather Mulder says that when you say, I don't have time for self-care, you might be full of garbage.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah. Here's one of the things that she suggested. Now, full disclosure, I have not done this, but the reason I haven't done it is because I'm afraid. I'm afraid, and you'll see why in a second. She says, for a full week, pay attention to what you're doing and how long you spend doing everything. Keep a running log. At the end of the week, go back and review how you're spending your time. Warning, it will shock you.
It's like your screen time. It's like your screen time usage when it pops up, and it's like, you
used your phone for 5.5 hours this week.
8 hours on social media apps.
Oh,
it's like,
gosh. I have that like screen time limit thing where it's like you only get an hour of social media. Do you know how many times I reject that warning where it's like 15 more minutes, ignore for the day?
I know.
Bad.
I know.
And that's where when you see like, oh, I spent 5 hours and 23 minutes on social media, what could I have been doing with that time? Now, part of it is me doing that because I'm also promoting the podcast, but not all of it.
Right.
If you happen to be one of the very fortunate recipients of my memes, you know that that is not the only thing I'm doing on there. And sometimes I'm neglecting answering text messages and emails because I'm scrolling social media. Do you know how many times I've been like, oh, I forgot to make that vet appointment? What was I doing?
Mm-hmm.
I was scrolling. I
Yep.
was looking at Instagram.
Yep.
Okay. So anyway, this is not a shame fest about how you spend your time. What we're doing is saying you might actually have more time than you think because the things you spend your time on are not as valuable as putting self-care would be in that moment.
Right. And I just want to add too that like when we say more time, like we're not talking about like 4 or 5 hours here. Like more
No.
time could mean 5 minutes,
Right.
or a half hour. Like we're not saying, oh, do this observation.
You need 3 hours to go to the
Right.
spa. Like that's not what this
No,
is,
right?
right?
Like maybe you find out
No.
that like, yeah, you spend like 15 minutes doom scrolling and being depressed. And that's 15 minutes. You could do something that doesn't depress you.
Right. We've talked about this already where maybe it means doing your hobby for 15
Right.
minutes. This is instead of doom scrolling at this time, I now, I can doom scroll for 4 hours and 53 minutes instead of 5 hours and 23, and I can take 30 of those minutes and I can use them to crochet
Right.
or read or do my puzzle or watch birds. Whatever your hobby might be, it doesn't matter, but that's the point here.
Right.
I can really see personally how this would show me how I spend my time and what I say yes to, and then it would teach me a few lessons about how I value my own time because I clearly am valuing scrolling over reading a book that brings me enjoyment or crocheting.
Right.
And like I said, yes, I spend too much time on social media. This is not a social media shame fest. I am trying to promote a podcast here. Ariel is trying to write a book, or trying to promote a book. Like there are reasons for this, but that doesn't mean that I am using all of that time that way. Like I also am inefficient with other chores, like quote cleaning out my inbox by reading emails I don't actually care about. Like what this is a big time waster, and I probably spend more time doing chores than hanging out with my family than I actually realize. Yeah. That's the purpose of the tracking your time thing. So if that's something you would like to try doing, go for it. Like I said, I haven't done it because I'm scared. But it might also just be that when you get that screen time alert, or when you are doing chores, you note like, okay, I just spent an hour and a half doing chores. Only 2 of the 4 needed to be done today. How could I have adjusted my use of time in that moment?
Right.
So what I mean to say and what Ariel and I means to say when we talk about can't find the time, a closer look at how you actually spend it might help you find it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And for some of you, when you choose to log your time, you might actually find that you literally have no time.
Yeah.
In which case, you in particular, my friend who has no time, cannot afford to waste any of it by feeling guilty about taking care of yourself. Like you literally don't have the time to feel guilty about anything involved in taking care of you as a person. That's not okay. And you are someone who needs this more than anyone else.
Definitely.
So just keeping that in mind. So this was just a little mini extension of that episode I promised, a few episodes ago about ditching self-care guilt. So I'm going to recap these 5 ways that you're going to do these 5 things to help you realize that there's no reason for you to feel guilty about your self-care. Okay. 1, you're going to redefine your crappy definition of self-care and you're going to use mine. I'm not going to repeat it again. 2, you're going to remember the purpose of self-care, why it exists. This I will repeat. It exists so that you can be your best self when it matters. 3, you're going to redefine your success. You are going to make sure that success is not achievement based so that you're not obsessing over metrics. You are doing something because it's good for you, not because it gives you numbers on your watch or whatever, or your bank account. You're going to say no to things that deprioritize your needs. So remember, you're not saying no to a person, you're saying no to the ask in favor of saying yes to yourself, your family, things that matter to you. And 5, along with the saying no to things, you're going to take back your time because it's yours. You're going to look for those areas of dead time that we mentioned in episode 144. And you're going to look for those areas of time when you need to do your hobby that we talked about in 146 that you can use to build in that moment, that habit of self-care. And you, as a parent especially, you can't afford to feel guilty about doing things that make you feel good about yourself because your family needs you at your best.
And you need to model taking care of yourself so that your kids can grow up knowing that it's okay to take care of themselves.
Yeah, and they honor when other people have that request as well.
Right.
Let's take a quick break. We will be right back. For links to resources mentioned in this episode, head on over to ckandgkpodcast.com/blog to find everything you need. And be sure to follow us on social media. Head over to your favorite social media network and find us at CKNGK Podcast. And now, back to the show.
A whole bunch of balloons popped up.
Oh, there is a thing on a Mac where you can have reactions. I don't know how they work,
Okay.
and I don't know why they happen. But like, I've seen it where like I've done a thumbs up, and it will give me a balloon thumbs up. But if I do it intentionally, it doesn't do it. So I don't know
so
what makes it happen.
Yeah, because I don't know if you saw me kind of go.
I saw you like do that, and I was like, "Did I?" Something
No,
up?
because
I didn't.
I saw a balloon
The balloons
rise, and I was like, "What's happening?" And then yeah, it was weird.
And I also, because if this is how I think a lot of people are, but I will look at myself instead of look at you when I'm
Right.
talking, which is not healthy for a conversation. So I hide my camera most of the time. So I didn't even know it happened because my camera is not in
Right.
here. I'm only looking at you.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Feel better? No? Stop feeling guilty. It's just that easy,
Right.
folks.
Just stop feeling guilty. Yeah.
Says the person who needs therapy.
Right.
Really badly. Let's talk about current obsessions. I mentioned last time on the episode that I love my boxing workout. I need to just make sure y'all understand I am using muscles that I have not used in years, and they are all screaming at me. I am so sore, and I see a chiropractor, and then I go to a deep tissue massage guy because my back and is so messed up, and my hips are really messed up from, motherhood and having a job where I sit down, that like this is like maintenance to make sure that I don't cry when I try to tie my shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And I went yesterday to get those things done, and I am so sore. So my favorite thing right now in my whole house is my foam roller, and I'm using it to roll out my glutes, like the very top, like where it's your waist almost. Do it if you have a sore lower back. I highly recommend rolling out your glutes if you haven't. But also my IT band. I am in tears.
Oh my God, the IT band hurt so much for the foam roller.
My eyes welled up. I was crying. I cried because it hurt so badly. And the workout is obviously really good for me. Like I said, my muscles are going, hey, did you remember you had this muscle? You didn't. And it's good because, the stronger your muscles are, especially as you get older into your 40s. Hello. Mm-hmm. I am now 41. You need to build them up because it helps with literally everything else, like metabolism and all that. Yes, but also like it's holding your bones in place. Mm-hmm. Like, hello. So it's really good for me, but I am so sore, and my foam roller is my bestie at the moment. So I'm obsessed with her.
It's so funny you say that because yesterday at the end of my yoga class, I was putting some of the props away, and there's a stack of foam rollers like on the top shelf of in the closet. And I don't know what I did, but one came down and then like 5 of them just
Oh,
like
that's so
rolled
annoying.
down. So people were, there were a couple of students that were like, what? Because they're huge.
Yeah, they're
Like,
big.
not the one I have is maybe like 2 feet tall. These ones are like
Yeah,
a
that's about
good
mine.
4. Like they're gigantic. And so people are like,
What are they using them for?
and that's what we were talking about. I'm like, I have no idea how they, I honestly don't think there's been a class that has used them recently and stuff, but somebody was like, I don't even know like how you would use it. And I'm like, yeah, you do like this really painful torture stuff. And like I got on my side to like
it hurts so much, but it like afterwards I feel like $1,000,000 bucks. Like after I roll out, I can feel less tension overall in my body.
Yeah.
If you have a foam roller and you haven't used it and you have pains in your body, just go on YouTube and find like a 5-minute foam roller workout and do it, and you will feel better. I promise.
And
but, oh my
if
gosh.
you can't handle the foam roller, I will say you could use something like a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball or something and kind of
doesn't that hurt just as much?
I don't think. Well, it depends on what you're doing. Like, yeah, if you try to like roll over a tennis ball, then yes. But if you're just taking the tennis ball and rolling it on your leg,
and rubbing it. Oh,
like,
okay. I was like, what?
No.
Like, I'm sorry. I was definitely picturing like me lying like on my side and propped up on my elbow trying to roll out my IT band with a tennis ball. And I was like, that's
no. If anything, that would be like you would just press it down in that case. But
okay, I see what you're saying.
I took a couple of yoga classes that do myofascial release, and we used that kind of stuff. I cannot say that I'm an expert in it whatsoever.
There's another one that I've seen that's called scraping. You might have seen like if you ever watched the Olympics, there was a while where the swimmers were having those like giant circular bruises on their back, and that's called cupping.
Oh, okay.
But this is called scraping, and it's basically like it kind of looks like a stick. You might have seen them. They're like sticks, and they have like those abacus kind of ball things on them, and you use them to roll up and down your muscles. But the scraping one has like tines. It looks like fingers, and it's to straighten out the fibers of your muscles, and it hurts. I haven't done the scraping thing, but the between the foam rolling and the cupping and the scraping, there's an option for you if you have pains. But I would highly recommend, especially if you have lower back pain, rolling out your glutes and rolling out your IT band makes a big difference. So. Anyway, that's my obsession. Do you have one right now or no?
I cannot think of one. I probably do, but now that I'm on the spot, like, I can't.
Yeah, no, I get it. I can't ever think of things.
I can't think of things.
Okay. Do you want to hear my gem?
Yes.
I sent this to Jenny this morning. For those of you who don't know, it means you haven't been listening to this podcast very long. I love Botox. But I wear Botox out. It's supposed to last for 3 months, 3 to 6. I wear it out in about 7 weeks. So I have a stronger one that I use. It's called Dysport. And like Botox, it kicks in and you reach full strength around 2 weeks after you have your appointment. And for me, though, the difference is that with Botox, I couldn't feel it kicking in right away. Whereas with Dysport, like 24 hours later, I'm like, oh yeah, there it is. And you don't necessarily feel it, but you can tell. Well, this morning I go into the bathroom and my husband is saying something about how like we're this old. And I was like, forget you, I'm 25. And then I looked at my forehead. Ladies and gentlemen, there's no gentleman listening to this anymore. My forehead doesn't move. My eyebrows don't go anywhere. It made me so happy, and I was so excited about it that I was like, Bryce, get in here. He was like, okay. And I was like, watch my eyebrows. He was like, okay. They don't move, you guys. They don't move. Watch this. I'll show you. Here we go. Ready?
They're not moving.
I'm trying really hard to lift.
That is...
I cannot lift them up. And, okay, I'm trying to make an angry face. My angry face is me blinking.
I
I
adore
can't
you
move.
with
I
all
love
of
it.
the fiber of my being, but that is so disturbing. You know I support you in your Botox journey. I do not judge you at all.
Oh, we're not
I
on a
love,
we're on an
yeah, I
adventure.
love
It's more than a
yeah, I
journey.
love this for you, but it's so weird.
It's so weird. It's so weird. And you know what? I don't care. Because here's the other part. I do get my crow's feet done. I do, but it's not intense. And my my dermatologist was like, so next time you might want to think about getting more in your crow's feet. And I was like, all right, maybe I will. I'm not gonna lie. But at this point, I still have other lines on my face, so you can tell that I like have an expression.
Right.
Um, but I can't make an angry face. That which means I have no 11s lines. And my son doesn't comment on how my forehead looks like a Wi-Fi symbol anymore. So I am overjoyed.
I love
I'm
that.
overjoyed that I'm 2 weeks in and I can't move and it's great.
You are happy, so I am happy. I am
Right. And I don't dye my hair.
No.
Right?
No.
We've talked about
Yeah.
this. I'm aging gracefully with my hair.
Yep.
I will have white hair. Hopefully I'll be one of those cool chicks that has red and white hair at the same time, like Bonnie Raitt style.
Mhm.
I won't be, but that would be the goal. But the Botox is going to be with me, and I'm very happy about how it's kicked in.
That's fine.
Yep. So me shouting it out to my husband and him looking at me like, "What are you trying to do?" Like, I'm trying to get angry. Look, I can't. It's great. I don't look like me in some ways, and that is okay.
Yes.
Yay!
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a gem?
I do. I have milkweed babies.
What? I'm sorry. I don't. Is milkweed's a plant?
Milkweed is a plant. Right. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So
I got one right.
Okay. So we were talking about hobbies last week. One of my hobbies is gardening and native plants.
Yes.
And I have a milkweed plant out in the front yard that has a couple of seed pods on it. And I suck at growing things from seed. And milkweed can be a little bit tricky because it needs cold in order to germinate. So it needs a winter. Like it needs a nice winter nap in order to bloom, which personally I think we all need to do more of, winter naps in order to bloom.
Right. There's something there that's very metaphorical and
definitely
relatable.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah. So the past couple, I have been trying to grow milkweed from seed for a couple of years now, and I am just thrilled because last year I was able to harvest a good amount of it. I cold stratified it by putting them into the refrigerator for a month. And then a couple of weeks ago, I planted them in like little pots and stuff. And last year, I think I got maybe 2 out of a couple of dozen seeds, like 2 actual like plants out of a couple of dozen seeds. And this year so far, I think I have like 5 or 6.
Oh, yay!
Yeah, so these are all gonna be like my little milkweed babies. The first year that I did this, and I had like small little milkweed plants, I made the mistake of putting them in the ground a little bit too early because they were small and my chickens decided to eat them. So, this year, I'm gonna keep them in a pot for a little bit longer, so they're a little bit bigger. But that's like 5 or 6, if they continue to grow and thrive, that's like 5 or 6 milkweed plants that I get to put outside, and they'll be happy places for monarch butterflies to lay their babies.
Okay, I had to like go look up what this plant is because I know what it is, but I couldn't tell you. Like, I'm not good at knowing what the plants are at all. The only plant I know is like grass, and I couldn't tell you what types of grass. And I know like sunflowers and then like sago palms because that's what exists in Texas, right? But like now that I'm seeing, okay, I looked it up, I got some images. This is huge. Texas is such a big stopover for monarchs. I
Mhm.
should probably have some of these too around my area. They're so pretty.
Yeah.
Look at that. Oh, I like
There's a couple of
them.
different varieties, and the one variety that does pretty well at my house is called swamp milkweed or rose milkweed. And that's, I
Mm.
believe that's the one that I've been having a lot of luck with. And so now I feel like I have enough that I don't have to go and buy starter plants, and I can spend my
Yeah,
money on like other pollinator
I see.
friendly, because I've gotten these little milkweed
Yeah.
babies, so I'm very
That's
happy.
so sweet. They're really pretty. If you should put a picture of them on the blog
Okay.
post for this episode. I want to see. Yeah, people will want to see that. Okay. I believe we have cured your guilt.
Single-handedly.
I did it all by myself. No. You need more than just me. You need a therapist to really cure guilt.
Hmm.
In the meantime, as Jenny would say, make good choices.
And go plant some milkweed.
Yeah, and stop. You don't have time for guilt.
No.
Guilt's not constructive.
No.
Go do something else with your time,
Yeah.
like a hobby. All right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey friends, thanks for listening to the CK and GK podcast. Find us at CK and GK podcast on Instagram and Twitter, and rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, or anywhere else that you pod. See you next time.